Let's talk about the Niger Delta, the NNPC, IOCs, Presidential Amnesty Program to headquarters to be relocated to the Niger Delta. This is not the first call. This has been a constant call by Niger Delta, different Niger Delta groups. Somehow that seemed not to have yielded any results. But on the background of the relocation of the CBN and other facilities now, the Niger Delta Youth Assembly is saying, please do what is good for the goose or the gander, because we are the ones who seem to be laying the golden eggs. We shouldn't be left out of the drive for regional development. I'd like to have your take.
It is very simple, and as it ought to be. It is said that he that must go to equity must go with a clean hands. And if you see what the President Bola Tinubu is doing now, trying to excuse me, put square peg in a square hole in some of his policies anyway, you see that it is a right step in the right direction. Because if you look at the CBN and the more chunk of the bank's headquarters, they're in Lagos. Why will you move the headquarters of CBN to Abuja? Simply for federal capital purposes or what? You should be able to let people be in their place of occupation, in their place of assignment, for effective performance and all that. And if he has, in his wisdom and wisdom of his administration, decided to move CBN and the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria to Lagos, that is a right step in the right direction. Anybody who is shouting foul is really not getting it right. It is either the person has an ulterior motive of denying the effectiveness of the manpower in that field of work, or the person is simply being shallow-minded. So coming to what Isoko Youth President is saying, I think he is saying what is right. This thing is long overdue, and I believe that the President presently will not ignore this call. Because this call is not just coming from Isoko Youth Assembly. No, this call is coming from all Nigerians. Move the headquarters of all NNPC and all the IOCs to Niger Delta. Let these people be close to their place of operation. Why will you carry them to Lagos, carry them to Abuja, and the place of the operation is kept? That is what is delaying development in this place. I don't know if you have taken your time to go to the riverine areas within Niger Delta. You pity the people, honestly. Sometimes when I see some of them coming to complain over trivial issues, I begin to wonder, look, you who lives in the slum, who drinks water from the same place you defecate, should be able to tell those who are coming to drill oil from your front, from your backyard, from all over your place. They should be able to develop this place. We have other countries that have oil. Go to United Arab Emirates, go to other nations, you see the way their oil have helped to develop them. In fact, Niger Delta states supposed to be more developed than Abuja, honestly, to be on a true note. So we are also joining our voices with this president of Isoko Youth Assembly to call on Mr. President and those who are working with him to please restore the headquarters of these oil facilities to Niger Delta and let them help develop Niger Delta. In fact, if oil exploration ceases in Nigeria and Niger Delta fails to develop, posterity will not forgive this generation, honestly.
Now, speaking of development of the Niger Delta, let's not, because of time, let's not go too much into the PIB, which has been a major concern, because several groups have also called for a review of certain items in the PIB, petroleum industry bill. But let's even leave that on one side and look at some of the critical factors. We had some of these IOCs here a few years ago, but the issue of insecurity was one of the things that drove them away, according to them. I bring that to bear that Shell has already sold off, if you may, to other companies. We also talk about the NLNG, for instance, extending what they're supposedly doing in Bonny, or expanding what they are doing in Bonny and bringing it further into other parts of the Niger Delta. We have all of these companies who know drilling from the Niger Delta. However, the issue of insecurity and the role that the natives have also played, if you ask yourself, for instance, this has contributed a lot to the status quo, if you may, but put that on the side and then ask yourself, The Niger Delta state received the 13% derivative, unlike other states. If the problem, because he said that when you bring back the IOCs, they are going to develop the Niger Delta by ensuring that the people are fully employed and well articulated in the process of the operations of these organizations. What have they done with the 13% derivative to show that, indeed, the reason why the Niger Delta is not developed is because they are not getting enough? I ask a quick critical question on this to say, where can we find a specialist hospital for a pediatric, a specialist hospital in the Niger Delta, where a child with cancer, skin cancer for instance, which is a major prevailing health issue in this region, can be taken to? Where is the specialist, particularly specialist hospital built by any of the Niger Delta governors that says, okay, this is where a woman who wants to do her cancer screening, for instance, or any of these issues, where can we find a major technological hub in the Niger Delta where we can say, okay, this is what has been done with this 13% derivative. So making it look like because the IOCs are not here, that is why the Niger Delta is not developed, and putting it side by side with the 13% derivative they receive and what has been done with that in terms of development. How do we begin to blame the government, all these oil services, IOCs, for not being here?
When we begin to blame the government, when we begin to blame the IOCs and all that, you discover that it seems as if they work as a team. Both the politicians, the IOCs, they seem to do the same thing for themselves. You discover, you'd have just asked what they do with the 13% derivation.
Yeah.
And you discover that the money is coming, those in government are embezzling it, and nobody is asking questions. Now look at it. The same tricks that Shell used in Niger Delta is what our politicians are using against us. Now look at it. Shell will come and divide you. Brother versus brother, put enmity among you, begin to sponsor one to kill one. Why two of you are fighting? They are taking your oil. So you see that the politicians are also coming to do same. When they see that this group are pressing too much, if I make my voice stronger than this in demanding for this 13% derivation, you see that they will begin to set up some people against me. Before you know, they will arm one court group or the other, and they will begin to fight themselves, and people will concentrate on the fight, and they will lose sight of the sponsor. So, and the government know this. The truth is that Nigeria government has not been sincere to Nigerian people. The successive governments of this country have not been sincere. Take it from Azikiwe. When Gowon took over from Azikiwe, he accused Azikiwe of corruption. And when Murtala Mohammed took over from Gowon, he accused Gowon of corruption. Obasanjo, they killed Murtala Mohammed. Obasanjo took over, and he said that he would right the wrongs that Murtala did. And when Shagari came, in fact, he almost locked up most of Obasanjo contemporaries. And when Buhari came, he said, this guy was corrupt. Why do we continue in blame game? Up till today, Tinubu government, who was the head of APC, National Party, last administration, is now coming to blame that same administration that he was part and parcel. The administration, he said that when you people finish, it is now my turn. And he was involved in everything of that administration. He's now coming to tell us that they inherited bad economy. Just blame game.